Hello, and welcome to another in the series of programs by Adapt Productions of Chicago, the television show produced entirely by disabled people about the world of the disabled and other minority group issues, but aimed at the general audience, focusing on a wide variety of topics. Today, my guest is Mr. Curtis Harris, who for years now has been active with an organization combating school funding cuts. Curtis, can you give us the full name of your organization?
Advanced Youth Leadership Power.
Advanced Youth Leadership Power. Now, could you tell us what are some of the activities that Advanced Youth Leadership Power undertakes in order to fight school budget cuts?
What they have done was, in the last 3 months, they went to the Chicago Board of Education meeting in August. They didn't testify, but they protested outside the board headquarters, while education policy analyst Rod Epstein testified. I was in the boardroom with him.
And have they also done this type of protest in earlier years?
Way back in 2006.
They did a similar protest.
Yes, when CPS cut $26 million and cut 200 teachers and 750 aides. But thanks to our fight, by writing a letter to then CEO Arne Duncan and President Rufus Williams, they restored $14 million and rehired 800 teachers.
Aha! So there was a cut which, if it had gone through in fully, would have been $27 million in less in funding?
Yes.
Okay, and that would have cost 200 teachers their jobs?
200 teachers and 750 aides.
Aha! So as a result of your protests, okay, you were able to get the cut partially restored, $14 million restored, so in other words, you were able to force the board to restore about half of the proposed cuts.
Yes.
That was very effective indeed, to say the least. And was that done solely by protest at board meetings, or did you also have other activities such as letter writing campaigns or visiting school officials at their offices?
We had a meeting with Arne Duncan. We told him we wanted him to not make the cuts. He told us there was nothing he can do about it because CPS claimed they didn't have the money. They did. They just undervalue students with disabilities.
And how did you get involved with AYLP?
I was a student at Columbia College, and at that time I was sharing Roosevelt University's fitness center. So I was working out there, and I saw disability awareness to make colleges more accommodating and accepting students with disabilities. So I said, I'm going to go to the disability awareness event. I went there, and there I saw AYLP. I talked about my story of being the Chicago Public Schools' first student with autism to be enrolled in the system in January 1984. And I too talked about my education progress and struggles. At that time, I was in Columbia College as a sophomore. I was progressing.
So your own story is dramatic in and of itself. You were a very young child with autism, yet you were enrolled in the mainstream at Chicago Public Schools?
For the first few years, I wasn't. I was mostly in segregated classrooms.
But then what changed?
I got transferred from a school called Lemoyne, which CPS closed in 2007. Lemoyne was the first school to have the autistic program, and that's 2 blocks east of Wrigley Field, which is now the Inter-American Magnet School.
Aha! I think some of us know the Lemoyne School on Waveland Avenue in Lakeview. But you were at the special program at Lemoyne for only 2 years?
3.5 years.
3.5 years. Where did you go from there?
I was transferred to Agassiz School, which is a mile south of Wrigley Field. It wasn't my father's choice to take me out to school. The CPS Office of Specialized Services decided to designate Lemoyne as a school for little children, and Agassiz and Leah Brown Elementary as a school for older students with autism.
So at Agassiz, you were still in a program for autistic students?
Yes, I was with several verbal students and a couple nonverbal students.
So it was a mixture of different types of autism and students struggling with different types of challenges.
Yes.
Okay. And where did you go from Agassiz?
I went to Brown School, but I was also taken out of the autistic program because my father demanded I be taken out and to interact with non-functional autistic kids.
So you were taken out of special classes for autistic and put into mainstream classrooms?
Before that, I was placed in the severe learning disability classroom for the entire year and the first 2 months of my 8th grade year.
And then were you shifted to a completely mainstream classroom?
For the rest of my senior year.
So your voyage was one from exclusively autistic classes, okay, through a class for the very learning handicapped, and finally into a mainstream classroom.
Yep.
And from there you went on to Columbia College.
Before that, I went to Steinmetz High School, and they funded the Severe Profound program, also known as the Inclusion Program. I was in it with students with autism, and some with emotional mentally handicap, and others with developmental disabilities.
So, with all of your experience in special education, in your case for those with autism, in other cases for children with other disabilities, could you tell us why is it so important that funding for these special programs not be cut?
Without the support, students with disabilities will fall through the cracks. Students with severe autism and others with severe learning disabilities or severe developmental disabilities will regress, and they will be disrupted by change routine. They will be without teachers they know well. They will be without several aides. Students on a higher functional level of autism who have problems with social cues and understanding things will be pressured to join gangs, and that'll lead them to jail, prison, or dead. And other students with learning disabilities with understanding of socialization will too be pressured to join gangs. They'll lead them to the criminal justice system.
So without this special education, students with these particular types of learning challenges would very likely fall through the cracks into a life of crime, possibly wind up dead at an early age.
Yes, because from my severe learning disability program, most of the students and those without disabilities in 8th grade are dead because they are involved with the criminal justice system. Most of them then finish high school.
So the difference between having these special education classes and not having them is absolutely dramatic. It can literally save lives.
Yes.
Which gives you all the more reason to campaign against funding cuts of this sort. Now, in the newspapers and television of the past year, we've read a great deal about further budget cuts proposed by the Chicago Public Schools. It seems as if we now read about this almost every year, okay? What kinds of cuts or how much of a cut is the Board of Education now proposing?
54 million. They had originally proposed 42 million in August. Then in October of last month, they added 12 million, claiming that they are in a budget deficit, lack of teacher pensions from Springfield.
So in saying the budget cuts are necessary, they're shifting part of the blame onto Springfield?
That's what Forrest Claypool is saying.
I hear you. Now tell me, would these cuts involve major cuts to programs that aid autistic children?
Yes.
And in some cases, would whole classrooms of teaching autistic children possibly be wiped out?
There's a possibility of that happening, because at the school that I attend at Agassiz is a cluster magnet school, and students with higher functional autism are mainstreamed to learning disability classes.
So these cuts could have some dramatic effects, to say the least, okay? Now, your group, AYLP, was recently involved in protesting at a Board of Education meeting. Do you have any other protests planned or protest ideas you'd like to carry out?
We haven't discussed about the further addition of special ed cuts. However, last week, TJ Timothy went to the testify against the special ed cuts and went to the City Hall Council meeting.
And who is TJ?
He's on Facebook.
And he is a member of AYLP?
Yes, he's also a member of the Autistic Self-Advocacy Network of the Chicago chapter.
So in addition to this protest at the board meetings, you've had an AYLP member going to testify before the Board of Education to testify personally against those cuts.
It wasn't a board event, it was the press conference at the City Hall.
Aha, but he was still getting press coverage.
Yes.
Sounds very good. And are you hopeful of doing more of these types of protests at press conferences?
Hopefully we won't have to. Hopefully CPS can be persuaded, convinced not to allow the cuts to go through.
Now, for those in our audience who might be interested in helping your efforts, possibly people who have an autistic child in the family, how can they learn more about AYLP? How can they contact you or other AYLP members?
They can contact Candace Coleman, the youth organizer, at 312-640-2128, and they can also contact Education Policy Analyst Rod Estvan, ESTVAN, at 312-640-2149.
And are both of them at Access Living?
Yes.
Okay, so that was Candace Coleman
Yes.
at the Access Living extension 312-640
2128.
2128, and the second person was Ron Estvan?
Yes.
And he is at 312-640
2149.
2149. Either of them could help someone who's curious to obtain more information about AYLP or put them in direct contact with an AYLP member like you?
Yes.
Okay. Now, AYLP membership is largely made up of students in the public schools?
Mostly former public school students, and the age length is from 16 to 30.
Aha. So someone can have a background as an autistic child, educated through the CPS, have already graduated, be beyond the age of 18, but still be active as an AYLP member.
Correct.
Okay, so AYLP is not only engaged in fighting these budget cuts, it offers a way for people who are already in their 20s and young adults to make their voice heard on this issue of funding for special ed.
Yes.
Sounds very impressive indeed. I want to thank you for coming in and talking with us. I wish you all the best luck in the world with your organization. And for members of our audience, let me repeat, those who want further information should contact Access Living and ask to speak to either Candace Coleman or Ron Estvan. Thank you again, and come back and visit us again sometime.
Thank you.
With me today is Ms. Candace Coleman, who is a member of the staff at Access Living, I believe.
Yes.
The premier organization in the Chicago area to help the disabled. And I believe you are also active with the group AYLP. It's my understanding that an important part of your work at AYLP, in fact, the focus, is to fight against budget cuts.
The focus is to fight against, AYLP is a youth organizing group, and we talk about issues that impact youth and young adults with disabilities. A lot of the core values and the reasons why young adults are in this group is because they come from the education system. A lot of them come from Chicago Public Schools. And so earlier this year, we have a great organizational structure, and every year our education policy analyst, Rod, comes out with this report and it's the only report that really defines what special ed monies are available, where is it going, and what is happening. And so this year we knew through his report that those cuts were going to be really dreadful to the special education community. And so the youth and young adults really wanted to stand up and raise a voice about these cuts, because a lot of times when we're talking about special education, it's through the lens of here's how we're servicing you, not through the lens of I'm in this classroom. If you don't have the support that I need, I'm not going to be able to learn to be the full person that I could be in the future. And so all of these people are a part of the process of special education, the teachers, the paraprofessionals, the young person that's in the classroom, the school culture. So we really wanted to highlight the impact that these cuts can have on the student with the disability who was in special education.
Because your education policy analysts had traced out what would be the specific impact of these cuts, and you found that the impact would have been drastic.
Right.
For instance, there would have been whole classrooms of special education just wiped out.
Right.
Okay. And looking towards the future, do you see further budget cuts possibly coming down the road?
Yes, and that's one of the reasons why we're still advocating. AYLP has been working on this issue since August, and that was around the time the first Chicago Public Schools board meeting started. And so the interesting thing about Chicago Public Schools is that when they have a budget, it's not closed, and so they could decide to do whatever they want to do throughout the whole year. And so currently, right now, due to the fact that there was projected supposed to be cuts after the 10th and the 20th day of school, those cuts haven't happened yet, and so we still project that they're going to be coming down the pipe probably in the spring. I don't know the actual date, but because the cuts haven't happened yet, there's still a possibility that they could.
So this is a prime example of what you said earlier about gearing the work of AYLP and other groups to the specific context of the city of Chicago, and in this case, the Chicago Public Schools, and more specifically, what you're dealing with here is the specific factor that the CPS budget is not engraved in stone.
Right.
It can change during the year. And since you are acutely aware of that, that then sends up a red flag in your mind that there might be further cuts before the school year is over,
Right.
which then galvanizes you to further action.
Right. And another piece of that is a lot of people who are not a part of the special education community need to be engaged in this process as well. Because it's like if you are part of a building or a culture and one piece of that is impacted, that impacts the whole school. And so AYLP is currently strategizing how to raise awareness that it's not just about our special ed and our dollars in our community. This impacts the whole community, the whole school community.
So
And
you hope to speak to a broader audience.
Yes.
I understand. And do you see, in terms of techniques, protesting at board meetings to continue to be a primary method of protest?
It's an important piece of, because at the board meetings you hear from the people. So it's a part of the process, but there are other ways to get engaged.
What are some of those other ways that you anticipate AYLP?
For example, we are at the table with a group of other stakeholders who play a part in special ed, so like the teachers union, the SEIU Local 73, which represents teachers, aides, and paraprofessionals. Parents, it's very important to educate parents about the IEP process and what they can do if they notice some changes that are happening within getting accommodations for their students. And so we have done things like we hosted a people's board meeting during the first board meeting, because we knew that during the board meetings you only get two minutes to speak, and our issues are so complex that 2 minutes just isn't enough. And so giving a voice in different areas, hosting parent education forums. There's one coming up with a group called Raise Your Hand. I can't remember the date, but I can get it back to you. So doing community forums, and really, last week we have been talking to Alderman Walls and Pack to support a resolution for the city council to say CPS shouldn't make any more cuts to staff, any more cuts to dollars shifting around or anything. And so getting the city on board with what we're talking about as well.
So in fighting budget cuts, okay, you're not only using several different techniques in AYLP,
Right.
but you're involved in liaison with other stakeholders.
Yes.
The teachers or the teacher's age, done largely through having open dialogue meetings with them
Yes.
to discuss mutual areas of concern
Yes.
and to try and form some degree of coordinated action if
Yes.
possible.
Yes.
And also you're involved in outreach to parents.
Yes.
And you said there's going to be an event coming up for parents who are interested. For those parents who are interested, how would they learn more about that event and others like it?
So if people aren't already aware, Access Living has a listserv that you can sign up to our email, and then when any events or any announcements come out, it's directly emailed to you. We also have a Facebook page for Access Living, so we mostly post any events that is happening through Access Living or in partnership with Access Living on our website. You could contact our main number, which is 312-640-2100. And then if you want more information specifically related to educational advocacy, you can reach out to me.
So people can, at the very least, call Access Living, 312-640-2100, and ask to speak to Candace Coleman. Or they can visit a Facebook page as well.
Yes.
And what's the address of that Facebook page?
I believe it's just Access Living. And
www.
So the website, let me just clarify, the website is www.accessliving.org.
www.accessliving, spelled as one word,
Correct.
.org.
Yes.
And that will take them to the Access Living page. And on that page, can they register to receive emails?
Yes, they can.
And in addition to that, there's a Facebook page devoted to
Any action alerts, news alerts, stories that come out about Access Living, events that are coming up.
which people can find by going to Facebook and then scanning for Access Living on Facebook.
Correct.
Sounds very good indeed, okay? And what is, in your opinion, the future, okay, of students with disabilities in the Chicago public school system? Do you see continuing struggle against budget cuts? Do you see a search for alternative funding? Do you see a, advocacy to create something such as a group to represent autistic students on the board? Where do you see all of this going?
I think all of those are great initiatives, and I think they are all possible to exist. Again, the reason why I work with AYLP is because it's raising the voices of the issues that they're concerned about and providing solutions on what to do. I think I see a shift in actually learning about disability history, pride, and culture in order to develop that leadership. Because we are in a city that's very heavy on our civic engagement, really engaging young people with disabilities along the line in the process. I know coming up, I'm actually going to a social justice fair that is going to actually talk about disability-related issues and the advocacy work that AYLP has done. And so just really bringing cultural awareness, to disability issues and what to do in the school system, but also the budget is never final, as I said before. And so I think we're going to always have to raise our voices up in that
A
issue.
continuous struggle on that
it's
front.
always going to happen.
And finally, let me ask you, do you think hip-hop as a musical form could be used to fight against school budget cuts by actually writing some kind of song protesting against school budget cuts and doing it in the hip hop mode.
Absolutely. I believe that music is a timestamp of what's going on in our life. And so if you think about all of the exciting moments in your life, you probably have a song that played along with that, right? And so I don't know who wants to sign up to that charge, but I think that would be a great opportunity
Could
to
hip hop as a musical form then be used to write songs that teach underinformed people some basic things about the world of the disabled?
Yes, so one of our catch line for the Hip Hop Detox is called Truth Without Boundaries.
Is called
Truth Without Boundaries.
Truth Without Boundaries.
Truth
True.
without boundaries.
True without boundaries.
And so if our truth right now is advocating against these budget cuts and the impact, I'm sure it could be put into some song form that's influential through hip-hop.
Our guest for today has been Ms. Candace Coleman, a youth coordination specialist at Access Living, to talk about her work both with AYLP and the Hip Hop Detox Project. I'd like to thank her for coming in today and urge all of you to join us again here at ADAPT Productions of Chicago. Thank you.